Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of ELA's Chit Chat, where every season is a reason to learn. I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Tori. We're so glad you could join us today. In this episode, we're diving into the exciting things that Spiral Moon Family Circle has to offer with the amazing Janet Callahan. Hi, Janet.
Hi. Hello, Janet. So let's go ahead and dive in. What inspired you to create Spiral Moon Family Circle, and how does this mission reflect your personal journey?
So the biggest part of what really got us started was that I kind of got tired of not being able to take my kids to events. My kids are autistic, they're disabled, and a lot of events aren't family friendly to begin with, but even the ones that aren't necessarily my family friendly. So, we have gone back and forth over the years trying to figure out how to make that work, and finally just sort of threw up our hands and said, fine, we'll just do it. But I also felt like we were really lacking a lot of sort of community services and infrastructure. That there's tons of people here. Convocation is here, and we have hundreds of people there every year, and you guys have seen that. Before COVID, Pagan Pride here was really big, 200 or 300 or 400 people. And there's no reason we shouldn't have events and places to go and things to do, and all of the things that a community has.
Exactly.
So
I agree. I mean, I know I said we've talked before, I have 2 autistic kids as well. And finding that community and finding that acceptance is difficult. And I mean, again, we've talked before about the fact that it really is largely almost training our communities to what is okay. And like, I don't know, maybe even giving them permission to know that it is okay to bring their kids. It sounds weird to even say that to me, but like, again, I would have people that would say to me, like, can I bring my family? And I'd be like, totally. And they're like, okay, so is my family just me and my husband? Because again, sometimes men are not welcome. Or is it really my whole family? And I'd be like, no, your whole family. And this particular family had like a lot of kids. And it was like, yay, more crafting. And it really is just a case of adjusting and just little ways adjusting. Maybe the ritual may take longer. Maybe we do a separate kids ritual, and then we set them in front of a show, and we do a private adult ritual outside. All of those things are possible if we can just open our mind a little bit and accept that there are different ways to do things, right?
Yeah.
That can include everybody.
And I think it takes assuming that everybody is going to be there, right?
Yeah.
If we start out assuming that only adults are going to be interested in something, then we're going to plan something that only adults can participate in.
Exactly. And that's a huge mind shift. I know it was probably not as big a mind shift for you or for me because we had special kids, our little neuro spicies. But I find going out into the wild and meeting people, they're like, well, what do you mean you want the kids to? What do you mean you want the kids there? And I'd be like, well, where else would they be? And so I have so many stories about what happens when you don't include your kids in ritual. And probably the funniest one was Eric came home one day. He had been bullied. He had worn a shirt that said, I rule. It was a rule. It was a math shirt, Janet. Math. Okay. And one of his little chippy schoolmates said, the only person that rules is Jesus. And so you need to put tape over your shirt. It's offensive.
Wow.
And the teacher supported that. And so I had to go in and go, okay, like I'm here for a meeting. I don't understand what the math shirt was so offensive. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, well, you know what? We can be really sensitive to these things. And it's like, when did we get to be that sensitive? Right. When did that happen at all? But planning for differences, planning for exceptions, not being necessarily quite as sensitive to the universe,
Mhm.
and absolutely planning for our kids to be there regardless what they bring to the table.
Right.
But yeah, when you don't bring your kids to ritual, my kid came home and said he wanted to be a Christian because he had a Christian shirt and was bullied. And so I said, well, no. And he was like, well, you said I could be anything. I'm like, but I didn't obviously mean it. So I had to really do some thinking and do some backpedaling where I literally did say to Eric, I thought about it and I'm not okay with that. I want you to have the same morals. I want you to have the same belief system as me. I want you to be raised in the same system because gosh darn, being pagan is good.
Mhm.
It's a good thing. And if it's good for me, it's good for my kids, right? So yeah, that was like a shortcut to no, we're going to start planning family rituals now because nope, that ain't going to happen in my home. It's
Well,
so important.
well, I think of my background, right? So I
Mhm.
didn't grow up in a pagan household. And so it was kind of weird for me to start going to pagan events and there wasn't things that were included for kids. And
Interesting.
so, me kind of looking like, oh, okay, so is there like, when you look at some of the mega churches or something like that here in the Bible Belt, not only do we have kids during service, but then there's also a part where, kids can go and have their own service and stuff like that. And I noticed there was none of that going on and how important it is to have that
Yeah.
in, our spiritual community. And so for Janet, for you taking the initiative of saying,
So
what, it's not here, so we're going to
Mhm.
make it, that to me, that just screams volumes of how important it is for people just to stand up and take initiative. And if you see something's not there, then create it. Or
Yeah.
you know what? Get a group of people and start making it happen. Because I know you have said before, it's hard doing it by yourself.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think part of it is, a lot of people come from another religion. A lot of our community has converted mostly from Christianity, right?
Mhm.
And on one hand, yes, children are accounted for there, not always well, but usually at least in part, right?
Yeah.
But also a lot of us come with this feeling of having been basically forced into religion.
Mhm.
And in the attempt to avoid doing that to our kids, we do the opposite.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, it is all well and good to not want to do that to your kids, but then you have to plan, you have to know, right, that Christianity is out there, it's everywhere.
Yep.
It is the water we swim in.
Yep.
And if you're not planning to teach something to your kids, then everybody else is going to teach their stuff to your kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And like, who
you
knew?
you don't have to be like the word people use a lot is shoving it down their throats, right? You don't have to shove it down their throats. You just have to do it.
And
Go
in
outside,
my case, I mean,
go
it was the lack
play
of
with the
doing it.
trees.
Yeah, like you totally nailed it. It's the lack of doing it on my part that allowed my community to basically not exist. And all of a sudden that seepage happened. And after that seepage happened, then it was a flood. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, wow, I'm behind the 8 ball right now. And I have to do some quick talking and some quick planning. And, I so get what you're saying about, well, then I'm going to have to fill it in. Because I did. All of a sudden I got a group of kids together and their parents. And I mean, a lot of the parents kind of used me as daycare, and I was actually okay with it because it was still building that community. And all of a sudden they became interested. And it was almost like, the desperation of building the community, right? Literally made a rock solid community from the bottom up. So if we don't include our kids, what happens to our community?
Exactly.
Yep.
Who takes over when we're done?
Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot just a little bit over here. So your school seems to be the central part of Spiral Moon Family Circle. How Can you share some of the educational programs that you have, and what kind of impact have you seen on your students?
So we have sort of a multi-pronged approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have some classes for adults. And to be honest, part of that is because when I was a new pagan, every store had classes. The best stores, and I say that like really specifically because I have a store in mind that we went to in Missouri that was just the most amazing place. And it was the first pagan store I'd ever been to. And they had classes every day. Every single day they had something scheduled at that store.
Wow.
And like in my head, this is the vision of what a good pagan store looks like, right? They had books and they had incense and they had this and they had that, all different sorts of paths and faiths, and everything from very, very inexpensive things to very expensive things, right? And just sort of the whole range. And their staff were knowledgeable and could answer questions and all that stuff. And I've talked to other people in the meantime, and I have met other people who are familiar with that store, and every one of them is like, yeah, that's like the way it should be. That's a real store. That's what a real store looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're not great at as a community. We are not great at supporting our businesses, and so a lot of the stores here that had classroom space went out of business. A lot of the stores that
happened up in Canada too. Yeah.
A lot of the stores that exist now are very small.
Mm-hmm.
They depend a lot on their online sales to help keep the doors open, and they don't have space for classes. It's not super common here anymore.
Yeah.
So a big part of what we wanted to do was create a way for there to be classes for people, because there are tons of people looking for information and looking for knowledge, and finding good sources is sometimes challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And like this year, we've added things like we have a seed saving class.
Nice.
Over the weekend, I taught a class on food preservation.
Ooh, I wish I could have gone.
It's harvest time. We should be talking about these things.
Terrified of canning. Terrified. Just saying. I would have taken that class. That's amazing. But nobody's teaching that anymore either. Like just as a thing, like nobody's teaching the old skills anymore. Mm-hmm. Nobody. And it's hard. It's hard to build a community, and it's hard to exist as a community when you don't have anyone to teach those classes anymore, or they're not willing to do it. So I think that's amazing.
We have a plan for like religious education for kids that's not really been implemented yet, but the plan exists. And then we also have Spiral Moon Academy, which is basically running as a homeschool co-op sort of deal. We're very small. My 2 kids are our only students right now, but we of course are accepting enrollments for the fall. And a big part of that is it is basically K through 12. Although we do have a preschool curriculum set aside too. We just haven't figured out quite how to implement that. Mm-hmm. We homeschool. And so when we really got to looking at it, most of the groups around here are very Christian, and that's true all over the US. And I think it's probably true in Canada as well.
Yeah.
So much so that at an expo we went to about this time last year, literally 2/3 of the tables had programs that we could not participate in.
Yeah.
Because you had to have a statement of faith to participate.
Yep. I so understand that. Like, do you know, we ended up, I said that's where ELH really came from, was the fact that I homeschooled my kids and I needed to build resources for them because they didn't fit into the regular thing. But honestly, Charlotte, do you know who Charlotte Mason is? Mm-hmm. Okay. Literally modified for the first year because I didn't know what I was going to do with them in that first year. I literally modified Charlotte Mason because it was the closest I could come to an earth-based curriculum that I could easily change to not be that. So all of the resources had to change. And it's like, what the heck that we can't find like one thing for my kids to do that was STEM based even. Like Charlotte Mason, love her, like old, but love her. But honestly, not STEM based. So again, and we were looking again for something that was actually science, not pseudoscience,
right?
Real science. And I don't understand how people can teach their kids some of the pseudoscience that is out there, or even non-science. I might go a little bit.
We have one of those textbooks upstairs that talks about dinosaurs on the Ark. It is a science
on the Ark. Wow.
Science textbook.
Yeah. I hesitate to even say that that's pseudoscience at that point. It's just fiction.
Right.
And like, I mean, Christy, you and I have had so many conversations about like the importance of good STEM education. It's vital nowadays to not only have a good handle on STEM, but to be well versed in computer literacy and all the other stuff that goes around with it. Like Chrissy and I have had so many conversations. Chrissy, talk about how important. It's so important.
It's so important because, again, I mean, we both have experienced both inside a classroom, outside of classroom conversations and stuff like that, where they kind of just change science. And really, for you to understand the real world and do real world application, you need to know the basics. So you can't just like, well, we're just going to sugarcoat this area. And I think that's why when we are creating, especially, you know, we have these conversations back and forth of, yes, we are nature-based. Yes, we are pagan. Yes, we are all these things, but we have to make sure that we are making sure that the kids understand the academic principles of the real world, you know, making sure that
like honestly, I'm right now I'm working on a unit on the forces in nature and friction, because it's part of the grade 2 curriculum here. And I was saying to Chrissy, like, I was struggling so much today. I was just tired and I couldn't for the life of me remember how to spell friction. But anyways, I figured it out. We're good. But the principles behind friction are important. You can't just negate them and say, well, the world is slippery or sticky. We're good. Like, you can't do that. You can't just gloss over it and go like it's not important to know. Like, Newton's laws exist. We need to learn them because it's how our world works. Physics matter. And it's like, you can't just, brings me to my question. The Pagan School Accreditation Association, it's fascinating to me. And I think it's really cool. What motivated you to start it? And what changes do you hope to see, science, in the pagan educational system through this initiative? I'm hoping you're going to say science.
So, like, here's the thing. Surprisingly, this wasn't even the first attempt at an accreditation association.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In the 90s, there was a legit online pagan elementary and secondary school. They were one of the first online schools, and they tried to start an accreditation agency, but there was no, like, this was the days when we were still arguing about whether or not you could initiate a witch through online use.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In the old days, things were weird, real weird, right?
Yep, they were.
So in Michigan, where I'm at, high schools don't have to be accredited.
What?
Accreditation in the U.S. works way different than every place else in the world. I'm just going to put that out there, okay? In the U.S., accreditation is a group of schools get together and decide what the standards are for a good school. And to some extent, that's how accreditation works everywhere, all right?
Sure.
But in the U.S., a couple of things happen then, right? The first one is, if you decide that science isn't necessary for school, your accreditation agency doesn't have to expect people to do science.
Oh, no.
In fact, you know, we talked about this a little bit a while back, but like in the last month, a group of universities in the US, big name, legit, huge universities, started a new accreditation association because other accreditation associations were too woke for them and expected people to have diversity. And they are already, because they are a group of big, well-known universities with donors, they are already getting approval for things like, so in the US, what an accreditation gets you at the college level is things like access to federal student loans.
Okay. Yeah.
So because these guys are already legit colleges, they are already on that list. Their new accreditation agency is already on that list. Their students can all get student loans. Theoretically, their students could get Pell Grants and other grants from the government if those grants still exist next year.
Oh my goodness. And there's no higher standard that they have to.
Well, once in a while there is, but the thing I've discovered in the meantime, because like I went looking, I found out that a lot of micro schools in the US, and when we say micro schools, we mean schools kind of like Spiral Moon Academy, where it's a small school that tends to be more innovative in how they're doing learning, and tends to either be a very small private school or some sort of homeschool hybrid type program. A group of those schools in Oklahoma started a new accreditation agency specifically for micro schools, because the rules at many other accreditation agencies don't allow for the sorts of flexibility that many of these schools use.
My goodness. Okay.
And that agency met one of these ladies online, and that's how I learned that in Oklahoma, schools have to be accredited. But to be an accredited school in Oklahoma, you either have to get approval from the state, or you have to be accredited by an agency that their accreditation agency accredits.
Right.
Wow.
So it's all
There's so many layers there that
it's all, as they say, it's all turtles all the way down.
wow.
Right? It's all
like
made
an
up all the way down.
onion. It's like,
So like accreditation agencies to a large extent everywhere are really just made up. There are a group of people who get together who agree that we're going to have these standards for a school, and every school that is willing to pay us the fees and meet these standards is accredited. And the question is, what are those standards?
Right.
yeah.
That's always the question. And for pagan schools in the US in particular, it's really hard to get accredited, because well over 2/3 of the accreditation agencies are tied to specific church denominations. Not even like generic Christian, but like the Catholics have 3 or 4. The Baptists have their own, several of them. The Seventh-day Adventists have their own, because most Seventh-day Adventist churches have little 1 or 2 room schools in their churches.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And one of their accreditation rules is that your teachers have to be taught at one of their colleges.
Oh, wow. So it's very different up in Canada. That isn't how it is up here. It's very hard to get accreditation here. It can be done, but it's hard. But we have to follow all provincial guidelines. We have to go through a lot of hoops. There's lawyers involved, and you have to have proof, and you have to submit proof every year. Your curriculum must align 100% to the curriculum that the province provides. And if you don't, then you lose your accreditation and you may never get it back. There's no oops one year and hope for the best. It's like you oops one year, you likely won't get your accreditation back. I mean, you can, but it would be hard.
And in the US, most states don't actually have a standard curriculum.
We found that, when we were looking. Yeah, they have standards, but they don't have a curriculum, which is
and a lot of these states allow for variations from those standards, in part because Christian private schools are so rampant here.
Yeah, they're just prevalent. And I said the news that Chrissy can speak more about this because it's her news, but the news that's coming out for us up in Canada, it's quite scary that you can talk about religion now at the water cooler, and your cohort can pressure you to go to some kind of whatever. It's more important now than ever before to have that legitimization. I think that accreditation gives, regardless that it's a bit of hoopla from the sounds of it, but like still having that legitimate hold on it, and having legitimate standards that we hold ourselves to, I think might even be more important than that, because we're holding ourselves to it. Apparently there aren't standards to hold to there, but they're like, we can hold ourselves to our own standards. Exactly. And that's more important when we set those standards high. And I believe in ELH, we have done so. So we run on the BC curriculum in ELH. So I run it parallel to the BC curriculum. So up in Canada, we did a one-to-one on Chrissy and I. Chrissy worked very hard. I provided stuff. She worked very hard to look at various states where we had people, and to make sure that we didn't just meet, but we exceeded the curriculum that was there. And it was really important to us. Like,
well, not only is it important for us, like again, when we were diving into, so we're different because we're not a school. So there's no accreditation for a curriculum or anything like that. So, but we wanted to make sure that we were either meeting or exceeding standards.
Yeah.
So the reason why even I am the American opponent of here, why it felt so important for me to go with the BC standards is when we're looking at this day and this day and this day, there's so much discrepancies and there's not a lot of across the board, everybody needs to know it. And where BC had it and even had a higher level. So what we really tried to do is we want our students to be what we call global students, international citizens. And so Tori will do the, she's done an amazing job. Not only does she do the Canadian components, but we work back and forth and she, you know, we get resources.
Hey man, I incorporate Imperial. I don't know what it is. I've never learned it. But boy, oh boy, am I learning what Fahrenheit means.
And same here for me. I'm like, I knew a little bit of the metric system, but we really work hard on making sure that, okay, if your child is in the United States, they're still going to learn the metric system. Yeah. Same as if your child is in Canada and you guys use the metric system, you're going to learn the imperial system as well.
It's important.
And so that kind of brings me into my question about this. So again, you talk about your school. I know our curriculum is more of parent and parent led and caregiver led and guardian led. So we do a lot of project based learning, lots of activities and stuff like that. Can you tell me a little bit more about the instruction given inside of your school?
So I'm going to talk about K through 8 because that's where we've really done the most of our work, right? My kids are more high school aged these days, but their curriculum looks nothing like a typical high school curriculum, right? So the K through 8 curriculum we're using is an online curriculum that's actually based in Canada. That is like one of the things I like about it is that you can set up a schedule with each lesson for each subject, and older kids can work through it independently. Younger kids can work through it with assistance. You can do it online or you can get the textbooks. They have both. So if you're a household that doesn't do a lot of online stuff and a lot of computer stuff, that's fine. We can get the textbooks, the workbooks, and do it all on paper. But one of the really nice things about the way that they have it set up is that you can individualize curriculum for each kid. So if your kid is reading at a 5th grade level but doing math at a 3rd grade level, that's not a problem because we can switch lessons around, right? And they have a list of how they meet various different state and provincial standards. One of the things that gets asked a lot in the US is like, well, are you meeting Common Core? And the answer is no, not on purpose anyway, because it's based in Canada.
We don't have Common Core.
And like, I don't have a lot of feelings either way about Common Core. I am a lot more positive about it than many of the parents I know, but that's because my background is very different from most of the parents I know, right? I have an engineering degree, and so like I learned Imperial, but I use metric at work. Right? So it's like whatever. I was a math whiz, as they used to say, and went to contests for math as a kid. And so like all of the Common Core things about math are just like, yeah, okay, why wouldn't you learn math that way? As far as I'm concerned, because that's the things I learned when I was doing those things, right? So it's set up to be very independent and to be very asynchronous. But then what we would like to do is also have some co-op classes along with it that are maybe pagan, maybe not. Like one of the ones I want to do, I really, really want to do is a journalism class. Because we have a TV station and we have a radio station and we have an online newspaper. We can do all of that, right? And I want to do it from our perspective. We have people in our community who have been reporters for many years and have worked with news crews and that sort of thing. And I want to bring them in and talk about, how we talk about religion in the news and those sorts of things, right? I think those are huge for kids to learn these days. And so those things will be online and virtual so that they're accessible to everybody everywhere. Because to be quite honest, I feel like our schools have gotten weird enough that for many families, they are not sustainable.
Yep.
They're not safe.
They're not safe. Yeah. I think that's a really big
Michigan, it's not so bad, right? But Michigan is pretty liberal, especially in the big cities.
Yeah.
But other places, not so much, right?
Yeah. I know Chrissy has reflected on that quite a bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have seen a dramatic change in our public school system. Again, I'm a former public school teacher. I was a product of public school. I have always appreciated and loved public school, but it has changed. And so what I love about both of our, ELH and your organization is that we're giving parents options. What is the best way to make sure that, hey, they're supported as parents and that their children are getting the education that they need.
Exactly.
So, we're seeing down here a lot of programs disappearing. It's important. Like, we talk about this all the time, and I love that what you're doing is, bringing up journalism classes and stuff like that. Is that, our vocational classes are being disappeared. So how do we do that? And so we're creating these networks. You're doing your end, we're doing our end, and we're, we'd love to combine on some of the aspects, but again, giving the families options that they don't have to worry about.
I mean,
I have to send my kid here. They have another option.
I mean, even the fact that you're doing home preservation it's life-changing for some people. Like, I know we were talking to a parent the other day, and they have to buy canned vegetables because they don't have a freezer. But yet, if they knew how to can, right? I mean, it's teaching people those life skills. And so I said, I'm terrified of canning. I would love to take a class. It's just not something my mom canned, but she canned with wax. And like everything I read said, like, you're basically asking to die if you can with wax. So I'm like, Mom, I'm not learning from you. Like, you obviously are trying to kill us. And then I refused to eat any of our canned food because I had read that she was trying to kill us with wax. And that was that. Like, I was kind of done with it. But I had a good friend in Victoria named Amy, and she actually wrote a book on canning. And then I'm like, you should teach me to can. And so I bought all the stuff. I literally have all the stuff to do pressure canning. I've never used it. Ever.
I said I was never going to do it. I grew up in a house where most of our food was grown by my grandparents or traded for somehow or another, right? We had they had a big garden, which got put up every year. And so we had cabinets full of jars, and that's what we ate all year. And we had freezers full of meat, and that's what we ate all year. And for a long time, they had chickens. So we had eggs straight out of the backyard, right?
Fantastic.
And I always said I was never, ever, 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 ever going to do that much work. That I was gonna, and like this is the hubris of youth, right? I was gonna go up and I was gonna get a job so that I had money to pay for that stuff.
Yep.
Right. And 2 years ago, I went and bought a pressure canner.
Well, to be fair, I do can in my freezer. So you can make freezer jam and stuff. So I do can in my freezer because I have 2 of them. And I have the space that I can have 2 freezers, right? But honestly, it's foolish that I do not know how to can. It's a life skill that I think everyone should know.
Well, and like I dug down into like traditional indigenous food preservation methods. My cousin taught me how they preserve buffalo and deer and stuff on our reservation, and we learn all of these things in Western minds about what makes safe food,
Yep.
And then you realize that people have lived for millions of years without pressure canners.
And they were fine. I know. Like my grandma, we used to make beef jerky like the old fashioned way. So we'd get, my uncle would go out and he'd shoot a moose, and then we'd strip out the moose, and then we'd hang it on like just like a hot fire, and then we just let the smoke do its thing or whatever. And like nowadays, would I eat that? Oh no, I would not. I would be terrified of it. But as a child, I ate it. I never died. I don't know. I think it was fine.
Well, this is what I'm hearing from both of you guys talking about stories about food preparation and stuff like that. To me, how important now it is with our, the way the economy is going and our food sources.
That's
right?
why we taught those classes this year.
But here's the thing, for us, I know when we do curriculum, we do a lot of, cooking and baking and measurements and stuff like that, because these are things that needs to be learned. I remember when we started taking out home ec out of our schools, and now I had students that, don't know how to use a microwave or
don't know how to boil an egg. Like, let's just egg or something. We don't know how to boil an egg.
But here's the problem with all of that, right? So then if they don't know how to do something, then you're going to have a whole generation, and then that generation, so on, is not going to learn how to take care of themselves. And so that's why it's so important to have classes, have the education, teach them what they need to know. And so not only are they know how to do it, but they can go off and teach other people, and that's how our community grow and be able
well, and that's a huge part of it too, right? For us, it was about community. The pagan community here in Michigan has a food pantry network. And so like, we know that there are people in our community who are struggling. We know that there are people who have skills for gardening. We know that there are people who have yards that would happily garden with you, but they don't know how to do it. And so that's part of our community building that we're doing, is like, how do we help make sure everybody has enough? Like at our Pagan Pride, we serve food. And this is one of my things, right? We serve food, and it is not you buy food. It is we serve food. We ask for donations, right? But as a community, we make sure our community is taken care of. And so we make sure everybody is fed.
So I just found out in Edmonton, because somebody posted in the area I live is called Twilliger. So in the area I live, people keep posting that we have a lot of fruit trees here. So apples and cherries, like sour cherries and stuff like that. And people just come and like strip your tree, whether you're home or not. And so she basically said, like, please stop taking all the cherries from my tree. Like, I actually rely on those. I can them. If you were to ask me, I would give you some frozen cherries, but you can't have them all. But apparently in Edmonton, they've started a food sharing program. So if you have too many food trees or food products or garden stuffs for your usage, you can actually put them on this website now, and people will come and pick your tree, or people will come and pick up your bags of zucchini. Zucchini might be a problem for us.
And tomatoes. Yeah.
And so all of a sudden there's this free way to share the bounty that's in everybody's garden for those who can't have a garden or don't know how to garden or don't have a fruit tree or whatever. And it's like, I was never more moved, because I was like really struggling to find out, like, with myself, what I was going to do with some of my garden stuff. Because this is really the first year I've had a real garden. I've had plate gardens and I've hydroponically gardened, but I've never had a real garden before. And I didn't know not to plant an entire planter of lettuce. I have so much lettuce right now that we will never eat that in 4 years. So I'm harvesting quite a bit of it, and I'm going to be putting bags of lettuce on that website for people to come get, because it's beautiful Oakley. Like, this is like bougie lettuce. It's really nice stuff. And like the importance of that. So my question for you is, with your radio station and your beautiful TV station and stuff, do you think that you're going to be planning some canning shows, or like how to share your produce shows, or what kind of content do you think you're going to do?
I hadn't really thought about that yet. Because like filming it is all like work.
It is. Oh my gosh, I know.
Like, we haven't really, like, we have some thoughts on how we want the broadcast stuff to go.
Mhm.
And we're just trying to figure out how to actually make all of that work, right?
Right. Yeah.
But like, I really want to see somebody who's really good at gardening do a gardening show that is pagan, right? Because like, I grew up in a really conservative German Christian, German Lutheran family, right? But my very, very German grandparents planted by the phases of the moon and all of that stuff, right?
Yep.
Like, astrology was evil, but you only plant during certain moon phases.
Yeah, I had never understood that either. Also from a German Lutheran background and weirdness of even when to harvest the raspberries. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. But I just thought it was my family. So I'm actually kind of like,
no, that was like common knowledge where I grew up. Like, that was common knowledge. Everybody knew that that's what you did, right? So like, I want to see those kind of shows. I want us to make those kind of shows, or to find people to make those kind of shows.
Yeah.
Because I think there are so many opportunities. Like, I want somebody to do a craft show, right? I used to watch sewing shows on PBS, right? Okay, but I want somebody to make ritual tools.
Oh,
yeah. 100%. That would be amazing. Like, to show somebody how to do that would be very, very cool.
Like, you could have that show would last for years, because you could always come up with more pretty things to make, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I want to see like the Pagan Home Shopping Show.
Oh
yes! Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. We have
QR codes now. We don't have to call the phone number and give them the little. Like, we could click the QR code on our phone and order whatever it is that they're showing.
Yeah. Could you imagine like the showcase of selenite and all its different forms? Like, look at this tower. Isn't this the most amazing tower ever? You want this tower.
Well, and I think that's an amazing thing, especially for. Okay, so I'm thinking of two different.
This is what selenite does, right? Sorry to interrupt, but like, and this is what selenite is, because most people don't know. They own them. They have no idea what to do with them. They just kind of sit there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I think about when you were talking about the craft show, talk about pagan tools and rituals and stuff like that, how important that is. And then also, highlight doing like the Pagan Home Network, basically, where you're selling stuff, how that supports small businesses and stuff like that in our area. Because if you, like, for me, I don't know anybody who really does the sewing or anything for rituals. The only person who I used to know who sewed a lot was my grandmothers. And of course, they're gone and passed away, but they were definitely Southern Baptists, so they wasn't going to tell me anything. But having that, that community, even though if I live here in Tennessee, but someone knows how to do it, let's say in Michigan, I can watch that channel and learn how to do it with them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so important. And then again, helping the businesses, because there's so many times that I see on other Facebook groups and stuff like that of people who live so far away that doesn't have, a shop to go to or anything. How do they get those tools? How do they get those crystals without knowing that they are the real stuff and not something that could be plastic?
And like, shopping online is huge now, right? But when I was very, very first a pagan, the internet didn't have pictures.
Right. No, that's true.
Right? Because I've been around a while now. The internet didn't have pictures.
Yeah.
I was in a college town that was an hour and a half from the nearest shopping mall in every direction. Pick a direction, it doesn't matter. Any interstate out of town will get you to a mall in an hour and a half. And it was at least that far to get to any pagan shop.
Yeah, that's far.
And so, it was a big deal to go look for a specific ritual tool or a specific herb or a specific whatever. And I think we forget sometimes that not everybody has the ability to just go and do it like that.
Right. You're so right. When I lived in Haida Gwaii, which is an island north BC, close to Alaska, we didn't have stores, let alone have a pagan store. And it was so impossible. I had broke my athame. It happens. And a friend of mine was a lapidary kind of guy. He was a rock hound. And I said, could you like make me an athame like out of rock? And he's like, what is that? And so I told him what it was. And he's like, I'm not pagan. Does it matter? I'm like, not really. No. I said, I'd prefer it if you put like good energy and thoughts into it. But I don't know if I necessarily mind that you're not pagan. You're definitely pagan adjacent. Mm-hmm. He says, oh, heavily pagan adjacent. But like, I'm not dancing naked and I'm not a woman. And then we had to educate a little bit there on what exactly that was. And you know what? It just kind of got dropped. The conversation kind of got dropped. And then it was 2 months later or so, he knocked on my door with the most extraordinarily beautifully cut and napped athame. This was stunning. He had got a book to know what it was, like what the shape was supposed to be. It was a little smaller than I would have liked. It was only about that big. It's a little tiny for me. I like them a little bit heavier than that. And then he said, I have found my calling. I'm like, what? And he's like, I think I found my calling. I want to make many of these. I love these so much. And to this day, so that was 20 years ago. To this day, he still provides some of the most extraordinary athames and boleens, because the stones apparently can be quite sharp, out there. And to this day, I still can't afford one. They're so beautiful. And he makes them out of real stones that he finds quite often. So quite often up here, it's jade, or he would be much better to talk about the stones that he finds, but like agates and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But he did gift me the most extraordinary geode. He tapped it and opened it, and it was a perfect pentagram inside.
Oh, wow.
And so he gave that to me as a gift, which for giving him the idea. But I mean, to be able to market our community stuff to people who would love it and give it a new home and give life, builds again that strength of community, that strength of self, the strength of purpose. And, it makes things more easy to find. Like I'm kind of tired of athames that are rather cheaply manufactured in a factory that I don't adore. And, there's just a lot to make them a workable tool for me. And I don't have the skill to make my own. I just don't. I wish I did, but I don't have the skill to make my own. So I do rely on someone else to give me those parts or give me something to work with. And it's hard because I bought an athame and then I wrapped cord and I waxed the cord around the handle to make it the right color and to make it more mine, and made pom-poms because frankly, that's just how I roll. Pom-poms and glitter is a thing. And so I know it's an athame. It's supposed to be all whatever, but I like glitter and I like pom-poms. So I put pom-poms on mine. And then I made a sheath for it and I wrapped it and stuff. Is it the most beautiful thing out there? Nope. It isn't, but it's what I made, and it's how I made something that someone else made in a factory in another country workable for my own practice, right? So, oh my gosh, if you could do this, I would be like, oh, so there. It would be like on constant play for me because I'd be like, I want that. That would be amazing.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and tell anybody, if you have an idea, if you are a farmer, if you're a pagan farmer, if you own a shop, if you know how to sew, y'all need to contact Janet over here.
Remember one of our parents, she dries gourds. I didn't even know that loofahs came from a gourd. I know they came from the ocean. They look very oceany to me, but no, apparently they do not.
No, they look like cucumbers, only weirder.
I had no idea. So again, there's a lot of things I learned from my parents and my students over time. Learning that a loofah is not a sea creature was one of them. I didn't know why I thought a loofah was a sea creature, but I really did. Anyway, so to know that they were gorgeous, but she dries them and then she dips them in soap, and then she uses those. It's like it preserves the loofah having the soap, I guess. I don't really know, but the soap.
Well, and they keep a long time once they're dried out anyway.
Oh no!
But then with the soap on it, then it's all nice and scrubby, right?
Mm-hmm. I never bought a loofah because I was afraid they were from the ocean, and I'm allergic to shellfish, so I was terrified of a loofah. I've never owned one. Now I will. Maybe go and buy one, but.
My favorite Canadian. I mean, that's just the most Canadian. I have to remember. Yeah, we have them. That's kind of a thing. I think it's also because at least I mean you guys also have the climates too where it does get hot and stuff like that. But like they
They're
grow.
hard to grow. They're hard to grow from seed.
Okay.
We tried when I was a kid, and it was a massive disaster.
Oh.
And like we had a garden. We had a garden that fed us all year, but we couldn't figure out how to make those grow.
Wow.
I don't know. She's amazing. She is amazing with both animals and plants and stuff.
Yeah,
and
we need
growing.
to put her in front of a camera. She needs
You need
to.
to put her in front of a camera. She's
But like that's the thing, right? We have all of these creative people.
Yeah.
We there's no reason we can't have all of the shows just with a more pagan or more natural or more outdoorsy sort of feel, right?
Like do you know what I would love? Okay, do you guys remember Reading Rainbow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want a pagan Reading Rainbow.
We actually talked about doing that for our co-op. What I want to do is I want to get a bunch of authors who write kids' books, and then like some big name pagans too, to come and read mythology and read their books.
Yeah,
like once a week for the kids at the school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the closest we've really come to it with ELH is we have my son Eric has a lovely low. I don't know how you typify his voice, but he's got a really good speaking voice. It's not squeaky at all. He's got good expression and stuff like that. So we have him reading our books to YouTube, but he's not on camera. He refuses to be on camera. So it's just like a disembodied Eric reading a book as it flips, which is not totally what I wanted. I really wanted him to kind of sit and have the book and, like create that environment with some candles and stuff. And it's like, let's read a book together. I will eventually, I think we'll work on him to segue him over, but.
Well, speaking of books and everything, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Eric a little bit, but I love what Eric has done, what the book is fully there. He is reading it, but it's where the kids can follow along. So if you decide that you didn't want to listen to Eric anymore, you could hit him on mute. And you can read the book yourself, and that's what I really love on that. Kind of jumping into books, I know you have a fantastic library. Can you tell us a little bit more about your fantastic library and all the cool things that you have?
So, pagans, we all have books, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I think it's maybe a little less now that the internet is what it is, right? You can find almost anything online. But back in the day, books were the thing. And so, early on, I bought a lot of my books at used bookstores because I was a college student and money was a thing that I didn't have much of, right? But also because shops were so rare. Once in a while, you could find pagan books at a regular used bookstore in the middle of nowhere, for no apparent reason. Right?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of books we bought new and books we bought used and books on lots of really sort of unique pagan and occult and metaphysical topics, but also things like how to run churches and how to do pastoral counseling and yoga and Reiki and mythology and things like the Quran. And we recently ran across a group of Hare Krishnas at a psychic fair.
Oh, cool. I've always wanted to meet one.
Kid, right? They actually sat with my daughter and worked with her for about 10 minutes on meditating, which was amazing to me.
Wow.
They were so patient with her.
Aww.
Right? And for that, I figured they were worth a donation. And so I came home with a pile of Hare Krishna books. So we have, I don't know, we're over 600 in the database, but I have 3 or 4 boxes of books still to catalog. But I'm sort of running out of shelf space again in my.
I understand that.
Wonderful walk-in closets, and one of my closets is a library. But it is full, and there are shelves sort of spilling out into the bedroom, and those are full. So we're going to have a plan, or we're going to have to get a building, which is what I'd really rather do. Some of our most unique stuff, I will say, is a friend of mine passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And she was I later found out she was a published feminist poet. and
Oh, wow.
goddess worshiping, like wrote some stuff for some journals and whatnot. She had run a literary journal, a pagan literary journal for a while. And so she got all kinds of books to review for that.
Oh, wow.
But also she was deeply into Egyptian mythology and Kemetic spirituality, and was part of one of the Kemetic temples back in the early 2000s. And when she passed away, her husband called and said, "Hey, do you want some books?"
Wow.
He was real short on funds for various reasons related to the fact that, you know, it was sort of a rough time for them. And so I went and bought almost all of her pagan books, and also came home with an amazing wooden chest from a seed store.
Oh,
Full of
nice.
ritual tools and candles and incense and all kinds of stuff. But like, we have books now on Kemetic clothing, on Egyptian clothing, and on Egyptian like household goods.
Oh, wow.
And
that
like
was really cool.
college lectures on CD about ancient Egypt. So we have a lot of really like unique stuff.
Yeah.
But also we have a lot of the like, we have Silver Ravenwolf, and we have Bucky's Big Blue Book, and we have, you know.
Yeah, good Bucky. But do you ever plan, do you think, on being able to loan those out or no?
So that's the plan. Actually, it's sort of a work in progress. Right now, I think the database is down. But we have an online database that is meant to run libraries, like a legit library database. And we have it set up so that library members can request books, and we'll make arrangements to drop them off or let them pick them up here or whatever to loan them out. Like, that's the plan.
Would you ever do it by mail? Like, let's say that I really wanted a Kemetic clothing book. Would you ever do it by mail if we agreed postage?
We might. We'd
Yeah.
have to figure out the postage. Like, that's the thing I haven't really figured out yet.
Like right now to Canada would not be viable.
Right.
But sorry, we don't even know we're going to have Canada
we also have,
tomorrow.
like, down here, I have probably 20 feet, so 7 meters maybe, of binders of stuff people had printed out from the internet back in the day.
Oh my goodness. Do you plan on digitizing that ever? Because like that would be an amazing library project, would be like to digitize that and then have that as part of
Exactly.
your library.
And so that's part of what I want to do. Although my husband points out that a lot of it you could search like on the Internet Archive and find the electronic copies. And I'm like, okay, but like there's hundreds of documents. Who has time for that either? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, even putting them on script, if you didn't have access to, like that would just be such a huge help. Because, you know, although that stuff is available, no word of a lie, I know a lot of the stuff is available, but Janet, people don't know how to look for it anymore. And if it isn't easily accessible, then people are just like, it's just not there, or they don't even know.
One of the things that I notice is, it's one thing if I'm looking for something and I go search for it.
Yeah.
It's another thing entirely to walk into a library and find something you didn't know you were looking for.
Yeah, that browsing. You find so many good nuggets when you're browsing. And again, to have a library to browse through, even if it's virtual, it's like, oh, I forgot I actually was really interested in that. I know that maybe that's just a me thing to forget I'm interested in something, but I have a lot of interests, right? And so it's like I back burners, like, and then to browse, you find it and then you can borrow it. Whereas really the reality is I rarely ever get back to the things I thought about because they're not present. They're not there.
Because there's things to do, right?
And there's things to do.
And so like, this is the thing. This is why I talk about infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
There are books that I have that were foundational books for folks in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
That people don't even know exist.
Yeah.
And there's like, our public library has a few pagan books, but not many. There are a couple of pagan libraries out there, but they're like in one place and you would have to go there and look. And I don't understand why communities of people who own 50 million books don't have libraries that are community.
Yeah. I mean, the NCCC has a library, but it's literally in Sayward. And, you know, we do kind of have a public thing, and they will find some way to get you the book or whatever, but there's no real process, and it's all logged basically in a database that's not really easy to use. And so we have all these books in a box that are just sitting there, but there's no way to actually do anything with them. And so how useful is that to the community, right?
And like, so that's why I want a building, right?
Yeah,
I want a building so that we have a library space that people can come to, and so that we have a place to meet for classes and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that we have a place when something bad happens, we can open the doors and gather as a community, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a place for things like, we have 6 kids who are all homeschooled, and they could all come here and work.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 or 2 adults could supervise. And, you know, all of those things, all of those infrastructure things that we are lacking.
Yeah, I know Chrissy and I have talked about that too. The desperate need. I mean, I know pagans as a whole seem to be very real estate shy, and for lots of reasons, and lots of those are good reasons. It's not that they're bad reasons, but I mean, especially down where Chrissy is, and it might be the same where you are too, Janet, but I'm not sure it's quite as dire. But like to have a space down in Tennessee for people to congregate and people to be safe, and a safe haven, a place to hold the library that Chrissy dreams of, because she dreams of the library. We've talked about tons of times. To hold all the banned books. We don't want banned books. We want all the banned books. And so we want a space where we can have that repository. I mean, Chrissy, the conversations we've had have been long and drawn out, but it's so difficult.
Well, for me, you know, it's kind of that thing of, I guess because I always had books in the household. When I became an adult, it's like, okay, I don't really need the books. You know, I had to go and dust the books and this and that and the other, like every single weekend, you know, that was a chore. So as an adult, like, you know, the books I had was things I had to buy for school. Mm-hmm. And it didn't come until really when I became a teacher to realize how important it was to have books in the home and have access to books. And then especially recently, how more and more it's hard to get books, even going to your public library, because of now all the banned books are like being done and being taken away. So having some type of safe space for everybody to come in, read the books, because again, we talk about this too. Our libraries are not our libraries anymore. You can't rent out the space and have different types of clubs and organizations and be-ups anymore. It's almost more like, you know, it's not a place of learning anymore like it used to be. And so how do we get that back is by creating it. And I think that's an amazing job. That's what you have of, you know, having the books and everything. You just need more of the space. And I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there for all the Michigan folks, you know, go out and help Janet, and y'all get together and create that safe space and have those libraries and have those classes. That's so important for your community.
And then you have a place to film. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like, honestly, so if there's somebody out there that wants to donate space to Janet, like donate the building, donate the land, get on that. Like, there's people out there that have space that they're not using. And it doesn't necessarily, I don't know, Janet, maybe it does, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in a town. It doesn't necessarily have to be, urban.
It doesn't, but it very quickly becomes a long drive here.
Fair. Yeah. No, it is here too,
but
for sure.
But you know, like, industrial space is relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. And like, if we had a big enough space, we could have a TV studio. We could have
you just need a warehouse. And
I tried to convince somebody to buy me a church a couple of years ago that was on the market, that was in an industrial building, that had a TV studio, because that's what they were doing. They were broadcasting.
Wow.
And I'm like, see, it's perfect. It already has the broadcast studio. It already has a room that's big enough for rituals and gatherings. It already has a kitchen. It already has this. It already has that. That's the thing, right? Is all of these things. The herbalists here are looking for commercial kitchens, because under Michigan's home cottage food rules,
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can make, they can, I think the deal is they can't make tinctures in their home kitchens because they're not safe enough, whatever that means. But they could if they were in a commercial kitchen.
Yep.
And so where do you rent a commercial kitchen for a couple of hours to put your tinctures together?
So in Canada, the rule is the same. And so we actually have people that have just opened commercial rentable kitchens. That's literally what they do. But it's expensive. And for someone who's starting out, it's not really very supportable.
Here, most of those places want you to commit to a certain number of hours a week,
Mhm.
week after week after week after week.
And who can do that? Really, it depends on so many other factors. So here, for people that do markets and stuff, you can actually get your house inspected and it can become a commercial kitchen here. However, it's not easy to do, and you could be subject to inspection at any time, which you should be, really. I mean, come on, let's face it. If you're making food, you should be willing to be inspected. But it took a long time to get that in place for cottage industries and stuff, so that they could then eventually afford the commercial.
Well, and here, that's the other thing here. Here, for cottage food folks, the limit is like $15,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
If you make more than $15,000 a year, you have to have a commercial kitchen, and you can't rent a commercial kitchen for that kind of money.
Right.
No, you can't.
Well, kind of going where you were speaking of earlier about buying the church that you found, let's look at how churches are made, right? A bunch of people get together and they buy a building. And talking about the commercial kitchen, I know several people who just would rent out the church's kitchen and have space. And so having basically old infrastructure like a church as a community, buying it, repurposing it to the needs of what the community,
and like this is the thing. There's a lot of research on what it takes for churches, by which they mean Christian churches, to plant a church. And what they talk about is 100 households. That 100 households can afford a building and a paid minister. And that's because they're expecting those folks to give $100 a week. Even when I was a kid, when we could not afford brand name anything, right? And when we didn't go anywhere and we only ate out once a week, we put $25 a week into the collection plate every week, no questions asked.
Yep.
Period. End of discussion. And my dad was on the church board for many years and counted money every week. And the stories he told about people one-upping each other by putting in more the next month because they had found out how much that person had put in this month. People were putting $300 and $400 and $500 a week into their collection plates. And that was in the 80s. That wasn't like people like it was a lot of money. Like it is a lot of money, but it was even more money then, right?
It was even more money. Yeah. I used to count our tithing, and it was shocking because I'd be counting the money with Angela usually. So the two of us would be counting it, and I'd be doing all the deposit and stuff like that. And inevitably one of the elders would walk on by and go, "Oh, whose envelope was that?" And it's like, you're not supposed to know that, buddy. Like, move on. But they're so competitive. But anyways, I don't know why. I mean, I do know, I guess, sort of why pagans don't tithe. But you do have to support your ministry. You do have to support your other pagans that are doing stuff. And that, I mean, use a different word then. I don't know.
To have community resources. To have community resources, we as a community have to provide the funding for those resources.
Because there's more than 100 pagans around you. You know that. I know that. I know there's more than 100 pagans around me. And I'm 99% sure there's more than 100 pagans around you, Chrissy, too. So
and this is the thing, 100 people at $25 a month is $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
And we could have 1,000 square feet plus insurance plus utilities for that money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And $100 a month is a lot for some folks, right? I get that. But it's not that much for a lot of folks. There are a lot of people running around who spend more than that on
coffee.
And
no, I'm sorry, but that's true, right?
And going on vacation and going to the movies and whatever, right? It's a matter of priority.
Yeah.
Right. It's what do we prioritize? What do we want to see? And it's a matter of understanding that that's how all of these places work, right? Churches have paid clergy, which means they have clergy to show up when emergencies happen. They have people to show up and do weddings and funerals and all of that stuff. They have spaces to have classes and have services. They like all of those things happen because people put that money in every week.
Like I was expected, like I'm still a licensed minister, so I'm licensed through the ATCC, and I have been expected to go and hold somebody's hand. I willingly go, but I don't get paid for that. I'm expected to do a lot, and I don't get paid for that. Matter of fact, a lot of the time the snacks come from me, the drinks come from me, like the supplies come from me, and at the end of the day, you know, it's not that I don't like doing it. I do, but it's becomes a financial hardship over time. And then the people who are doing the organizing, like you, Janet, we get tired and we get fatigued from doing this all the time. And it's, I don't know. Like I find it, I was talking to Mary, my Mary up here in Canada. She's like the archpriestess of the ATCC here. So we had like a board meeting, and we were talking about how the water cooler and the school rules and stuff like that. And I guess the Church of Satanism, so they are actually sending in their people to schools because you're allowed to have a minister in the school. So they're going in there, and you're allowed to have people in XYZ. They're going in there. And I said to Mary, like, why are we not going in there? She says, we're not big enough. I'm like, but I think we are big enough. And she's like, and like there was just this giant void. And I'm like,
but I think it also has to do with, do we have that community support to go in? And really, what needs to happen, what I foresee is going to happen, is that we're all going to be coming together. Either if it's at a physical place, where we do have a community center, our own church or whatever about that physical building, but really having that other support of saying, you know what, we're going to take care of you. So if you do go into another place, I got your back, And I think our community is pulling together and making sure, Janet, you're doing an amazing job over in your community of pulling some of those infrastructures together where really, if you want something to happen in your community, reach out to Janet, reach out to us, reach out to your community leaders, because the biggest thing that community leaders need is not just money, but really the physical support. Volunteers are what make organizations grow.
And so, like, honestly, I look at what you're doing with Pagan Pride, Janet, and like, that's where this all starts. Right? Like, do you agree? That's where this all starts. Like, if you want to
it's a huge part of it, right? Because otherwise, how do you meet people in your community?
That's
right. Okay, you can meet people online, but it's not the same.
It is not the same.
And I say that as somebody who really doesn't like big group things are not my thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. But it is not the same. And like people post online all the time, hi, I'm new and I'm looking for a coven. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not how you find a coven.
No.
How you find a coven is you show up to things and you meet people.
And you show up more than once. Like, honestly, you show up more than once. You show up. And it's not about some weird old Gardnerian rule about you have to ask 3 times or whatever.
No, it's about showing up and proving you're an actual person who is not just out to cause trouble, right? Yeah. You're here and you're interested and you're actually going to follow through.
And you're genuine. And with your being, we call them seekers, you're genuine being a seeker. And a seeker doesn't mean you want to go into the priestesshoodness. It's not that you want to go out and be like one of those. It's just part of the community. Can you financially support us? Can you, if you don't have financial means, it's like work, deed, and I can't remember what the other pillar was, but it's like you have lots of talents out there. So use them. And it's not always about money. It isn't. But like with Pagan Pride, it doesn't run without volunteers. It doesn't run without people who are doing the booths. It doesn't run without the people doing the workshops, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, I think that's the other thing, right? Is like, this is the thing I learned about preserving food that is about everything in community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Either you're going to put in time, or you're going to put in money, or you're going to put in some other resource, right?
Yeah.
You know, we had food because my grandmother didn't have another job.
Yeah.
That was her job during the year, was running that garden and putting up that food. And as somebody who works full time, there's no way I could put up that much stuff.
Mhm.
Like, it's just not possible, right?
Right.
But the same thing happens with groups and events. It takes money to rent the park.
Mhm.
It does.
It takes people to show up and vend and teach workshops and talk to new people when they come to the front, come show up. It takes donations for things like we're taking up a donation for the food pantry. We're going to have probably a raffle that people will have donated items for to raffle off. It takes people showing up and setting up all the stuff, and it takes people showing up and cleaning up when we're done.
Mhm.
Because if we don't clean up, we
now.
lose a huge deposit that's almost as much as we paid for the park.
Mm. Yeah.
And like, being able to get that deposit back makes the next event possible.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's got to be people that are willing to take down the signs. There's got to be people willing to put the signs up, and, you know, to do that foot traffic and to do all that, and it's work. It's not easy work sometimes. Sometimes it's really hard, but somebody has to do it. You know, the
Exactly.
community must pull together, or we don't have a community.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So,
Well, tell us. I know your Pagan Pride event is coming up. Tell us about it. How can people get involved? How can people like learn how to join a coven or a circle? How to meet
tell us
people?
all the deeds. Chrissy,
So our
can you
Pagan
put a
Pride is
banner on the
actually
bottom?
this weekend.
Mhm.
It's this Saturday. It's in Hazel Park, in a park called Green Acres Park. It's over by I-75 and right off of Woodward Heights, I believe it is. If you look it up on Google, Google will find it. So, you know, follow the instructions from Google. We have about 10 vendors, I think. We're going to have some classes. We're going to have some games. We're going to have a ritual.
Nice.
We're going to have one of the things we instituted when we started running Pagan Pride was we instituted a community discussion.
Mm.
Like, what's working and what's not, right? What do we need? What do we need? What are you willing to support?
Nice.
So we're going to do that this week. There is another Pagan Pride here in Ann Arbor in early September. There's going to be a Conjure and Folk Magic Festival in September.
Oh, nice. I want to
run by a good friend of mine, and when the previous versions before COVID were fabulous, so I'm sure it'll be great. They are looking for vendors and volunteers. And then, of course, October comes around, and there's a whole bunch of October witchy things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The big one here is the Witches Ball and Bazaar. The ball is a charity event, and the money raised there goes to Wolf Run Spiritual Sanctuary, which is an animal and spiritual sanctuary down the road a ways, and the Pagans in Need Food Pantry, which has multiple chapters throughout Michigan, and the Michigan Pagan Scholarship Fund,
nice.
which offers scholarship money to college students.
Awesome.
And the bazaar always has like 40 or 50, I don't know how many, a lot of vendors. And that's free to get into and go wander around and spend money and buy stuff from people. And those vendors paying vending fees are part of what makes the charity event work, because it covers the cost of the hall, right?
Wow.
So Janet, with your Pagan Pride coming up, you said you have some workshops going on or chats and stuff. Do you want to give a shout out what those are?
I actually don't know what they are offhand.
Okay, sorry.
Well,
Give me 1 second and I'll find them. If I
and
even
while
wrote them down.
for that, we can't have the banner going up right now, but what viewers, if you look in the comments and in the show notes, we will have all the links to all these wonderful events that Janet's talking about, and also all the Spiral Moon Family Circle. We will have that link up. We'll have all that up for. So
Absolutely.
Okay, so I haven't checked to see if there's any last minute additions, but I know that Sunshine Witchkey, who's the sober witch, is going to do a workshop on energy protection.
Ooh.
Tobias Webb is going to do glamour magic.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Diana Rachel is going to do Speaking the City Spirit, a two-way conversation with Detroit.
Ooh.
She's the author of Urban Magic, a guide for the city witch.
I've read that book.
She is not here in Detroit, but here in Michigan.
Yeah.
And so she's, a local celebrity of sorts.
Yeah, no, I've actually read that book because I am also an urban witch. I live very urbanly, and so I was really excited to see someone else that reflected their practice like I reflect mine, right? Because yeah, like I have a postage stamp that I live on, and I have ambulances, and I've got police and 2 freeways on either side of me. So yeah, no, I'm urban. I'm about as urban as they get, and I loved reading her book. So sorry, shout out, woo, urban.
And then the wonderful Kenya Koviak, who's a long-term friend of mine and who is a local
phenom.
Yeah. She's going to teach a simple magical herbalism workshop, which is really introductory stuff. No. And then she's also going to teach Magic After Midnight, which is about doing work after dark in urban areas. And she runs the Conjure and Folk Magic Festival that's coming up later in September. And she is planning on doing a workshop on Ho magic.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It will be amazing.
Oh my gosh, your TV station has to get up and running. Look at all those things you could do on your TV station. I could be
well, exactly. Like there's tons of things and there's tons of people, and like you don't have to be here to be on TV because TV can be everywhere.
No, I would so watch something on almost all of those topics, but urban and Ho magic. I mean, conjure, and that's also like right up my passion alley. So it's like, oh my gosh, your Pagan Pride is going to be absolutely amazing. Woo!
Same.
But I wish I was there. So if you could like take pictures and stuff, I would love to see some, like, and send them up. And
yeah, usually we take at least a few pictures. I have to plan to like actually remember to do it.
Would it be okay?
But this year we're going to have a reporter. We have so Semaphore News, our news broadcast has a new reporter, and that's going to be one of her first stories. She's going to come and come to the event and report on it as a first-time attendee. So that'll be really cool because I don't have to do it.
If you would like to republish it in our Equinox magazine that's going out in September, we could somehow make that work. I would love to take that from you.
I'll see what we can do.
Obviously, we'll give full bylines and everything else. It's not a problem. We don't follow bylines.
But like, so there's tons of cool stuff that we'll do. And
Well, Janet, I just want to say, like, I am so excited by all the work and all the potential stuff that's going on. I love your energy so much. You are so much fun to talk to. But also, like, the energy you put into the building our community is huge. And I just think, giving you kudos and giving you credit for the energy you put into the community and the amount of work and verbiage you give to community. Like, it's not just a word for you. It's an action. It's a passion. Like, it's a passion project. And I mean, honestly, I know you and I are aligned on the brain that community is everything. Without it, we don't really have much, but with it, we can be so powerful. We can make a difference in people's lives,
Well, and I think community is super, super important here in the US right now.
Yeah.
Because community is how we hold things together
Yeah.
when
It
things get really complicated, right? Having that community to fall back on and to help support us and to help make sure that people are safe and people are fed and people are cared for is huge. It's hugely important.
Yeah. And I do believe that food security going forward may start being an issue. I know it's already an issue up here a little bit. And, making sure that we have that community to fall back on so that we know we can provide and we know that we can provide safe space, right? And I think safe space for you guys in particular may actually start being a bit of a premium.
Yeah.
Because it is what it is, right?
Exactly.
I love, like, again, how not only you do things in person, but both groups, ours and yours, do things online to let people know, you know what, even you may be the only person in your community.
But you're almost never the only person.
But you're never almost the only person. But when you feel that you are, but you know what, you have a whole community that's everywhere that's here to support you. So your community can be very near, but can also be very far. And that's one thing I have learned throughout my journey is that my community may have to start out just a little area, but now it has grown. And I love, Jana, what you're doing with community, both locally and afar.
And online. And oh my gosh, like I feel, even though I live in Canada, I feel like I'm still part of your community. Like I feel like we can, because we have things in common and we have common goals, like we can help each other, even though we live very far apart. And there's a giant border now that there just is. And so, to be able to feel like part of your universe is so special to me because I do live far away, and I hope that you can feel the same comfort level with our community too. We have to cross borders. We have to cross those lines and be bold. I think we have to not be afraid. I think we have to be bold going forward. And I love the fact that you are bold, and that you will remain bold. And hopefully emboldened by your community. I'm excited about your Pagan Pride. I'm so bummed I'm missing it. I don't want to be there so bad now. It's like, oh my God, Urban Magic Girl. Sorry. It's like fangirl moment. But like, it's so weird because when I met Jason Mankey, whom I also really adore as an author, when I met him at Convocation, I was like, I didn't fangirl nearly as hard. And I thought I would fangirl over a couple other people, but I really didn't. But I would fangirl on that one because so few, like it's so weird, but so few practitioners really speak to the fact that urban witches exist, for one, and two, that our practice is significantly different. I can't just go,
and that it's legitimate.
It's legitimate. She made me feel like I was legitimate in my practice. She made me feel like I could own being an urban witch, as opposed to, like, oh my gosh, no, I didn't get to the river today. And, I don't know how I can possibly traverse the city to go find a park that wouldn't be overrun with homeless people and needles. Like, I'm not sure where I would be able to find that green space right now. Like, there are a couple parks around, but again, it's quite, I think we lost Christy. Anyways, it's quite an urban environment, and urban environments come with stuff.
Yeah.
So, oh, my video is gone. Oh no. Okay. So that's all right. Christy, we love you. Like, are you there at all? We'll edit this. It's fine. It's all good. We can totally hear you.
Okay, so yes, my video's gone, but anyway, I just want to say thank you so very much for Janet to come in and speak to us and just showing so much about all this wonderful things that you're a part of and how you are supporting the community.
And honestly, Janet, open invitation. Everyone talk again. I love talking with you. You are so much fun, and I always learn something new every time I talk to you.
That's okay.
And,
I'm gonna invite you guys to come be on my podcast.
woohoo!
I just
would
have to figure out when.
Yeah, I'm there for you. I think that would be so much fun. Put you in the hot seat instead. Like you put me in the hot seat. That might be scary. No, I'm really excited. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate you very much. And I really hope your Pagan Pride is super successful and all of the other festivals are too. Oh, okay. Awesome. So that would be really cool.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much, Janet. You take care.
Thanks for having me.
No worries.
And thank you to our listeners. I hope you have a wonderful evening and can't wait to see you for another episode of ELA's Chit Chat. I'm Chrissy.
And I am Tori. Shine bright, learn bold.